and welcome to this edition of the Boob Tube Buddies podcast featuring our discussion of the HBO show Westworld, episode 10, the season finale entitled The Bicameral Mind. My name is Foxman, and I'm joined by the bi to my cameral mind. What's up, Mothman?
Do you remember?
Doesn't look like anything to me.
I hope you were going to say, like, do you remember what? And I'd be like, I didn't say anything. You must be talking to yourself.
Damn.
Right? All right.
Yeah, that's okay. Off to a good start. I mean, it took you literally 24 hours to come up with that, so.
Yeah, I did text you yesterday when it was in the work.
So just real quick, because we've got a ton to dive into here, but just a couple of quick bits of information. You guys can check out all of our content at www.boobtubebuddies.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit. Just look up at BoobTubeBuddies, or email us at boobtubebuddies@gmail.com. We will get all your questions, theories, everything like that on air, and it's not too late because we actually are going to do a season in review that'll come out next week, so we definitely love to hear from you guys going into that. Mothman, before I throw it over to you, let me do a quick correction from last week.
Okay.
I kept calling the town of Escalante Escatone. I did it like 3 or 4 times.
Sure.
Escatone is Hector's last name, and the town where all the stuff is going down is called Escalante. So, my bad.
No worries, bro. No, what's great is that in these notes it has Escatone like twice.
What?
Yeah.
No, please
joke.
tell me no. I did a search and replace.
I had to change
afterwards.
Maybe you
Son of a
misspelled
bitch.
Escatone.
No, I did it after I sent it to you.
Oh, no worries. I just thought it was funny because I was like, half the time I don't remember names anyway. So then I, on air, say like, is that right? I'm like, yeah, maybe. So anyway.
Oh, you know how I like to fuck with you with the notes by putting like really, really stupid. There's a lot of it in here. By the way,
I saw some. I think just to be on the safe side, I'm going to refer to the town as Emilio Estevez.
I'm going to start coming up with like extremely complex keys like that I'll have written down to where everything is mislabeled just to really throw you off.
You're just going to send me the notes in wingdings. That's just gonna be fly blind.
Real quick, let's talk about what we got going on, what's coming up, and then that'll be it, and we'll go into the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we are doing Walking Dead right after this, and then I think there's one more episode till the mid-season finale. The Boob Tube Buddies just finished American Horror Story and also finished Gilmore Girls because it was a 4-episode year in the life season. Divorce still has a few episodes left. Ash vs. Evil Dead, which Devin and I are doing, also has 2 episodes left, and we just did Fantastic Beasts. We have done Doctor Strange, and then we are going to be doing Rogue One, and then other than that, I think...
if you guys decide because December is such a shit month for television, if you decide you're going to go back, want to catch something on Netflix that you're going to binge, Bethany and I are doing Black Mirror throughout this upcoming month, so you'll have that as a companion piece. We've also done Luke Cage, Stranger Things, and The Get Down, all of which are fantastic, and we've completed the whole series, so you can kind of go through and listen as you watch. So we have a lot to get to here, let's just jump in, right?
Let's do it. So we actually finally see Dolores being synthesized by... Arnold, which at this point... Yes,
that was an image that had come up in the early teasers for the show.
And what's funny is, Ryan, who we had on the podcast and had the whole really well done, fleshed out Bern Arnold theory, and Flesh is a pun there because one of the big points of contention that some dude posted 5 images of was just showing the skin tone of different characters and how this definitely wasn't unequivocally Arnold. But anyway, it definitely is. One of the things that I thought was kind of cool here, though, is when she gets up, he says, "Welcome to world."
Not welcome to the world?
Welcome to world, not Westworld. He doesn't name it, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Especially considering the reveal of Samurai World later on. Yeah,
so considering that reveal and the fact that, this was the park in its infancy, so maybe it wasn't Westworld yet, and then also just... I don't know, the whole thing that goes on with him trying to develop true consciousness. It's just welcome to world. And then also the whole meta theories we talked about, how, the final narrative of Ford is just the world he's living in as like he's playing God. I thought it just worked on multiple levels. I don't know if it was just an oversight, but I was definitely reading all kinds into it.
And so typical that of all the people that could have first gained consciousness, it wasn't anybody in samurai world or from any of the other worlds, you know, different cultures. Of course, it's a fucking Aryan woman, you know?
At least it's a woman, though, right? Small steps.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Could have been a white male. It could have been Teddy.
yeah, that would have been like the ultimate fuck you to diversity right there.
Anyway.
Okay, so they talk real quick, and it's kind of going back and forth because she is in the present shaving the man in black like straight razor style with his knife in Escalante, right? Escalante?
Yes, Escalante.
Nailed it.
And that knife you've mentioned in prior podcasts, like that William's using, and they definitely give that like nod here a few times before the actual reveal. But
yeah, he stabs the one soldier with it, like brutally stabs him to the point where even Logan's like, "Whoa, pump the brakes there, partner."
Yeah, like what the hell are you doing? But they give a very obvious, like he pulls it out, they zoom on it. Like at that point, as long as you're paying attention, you already know what's happening.
Oh,
you know?
There were many reveals throughout this episode where it was like, okay, for all of you who have already kind of guessed it, yes, this is where we're going with it before they like flat out said it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like one of them too, before he said it, which I thought was a really cool one, was not only does he put the hat on, but then he kind of puts his head down and the camera shot's consumed by the hat. And then when he lifts his head up, it's just Man in Black, and it's like a flash forward.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, not that they're like they're certainly not mirror images of themselves. I mean, you would say that what's Ed Harris definitely has like a classically handsome built face, you know, very symmetrical, whereas
not a McPoyle.
It definitely not a McPoyle face. Definitely does not look like the result of too much milk and inbreeding.
Yeah, I was saying early on that I thought the whole theory was disproved because they didn't give him a mole. But then I was like, well, if they gave him a mole, everyone would really guess it. I think the real missed opportunity is to give him multiple moles.
Oh my god!
Because he would have gotten worse with age, right? But you know what? I'm still okay with it.
Yeah, multiple mole theory confirmed.
Yeah. Let's do a breakdown for YouTube. Get 1 million views.
Oh yeah, I'm sure people would flock to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get William leading Logan through the woods. We talked about it a little bit, and we've got the just a couple of different things happening right here. Like we see a shot of Teddy rolling into town, just like we saw plenty of times in episode 1.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the music starts slowing down and he hears, "Remember." And then all of a sudden he looks around and everybody's dead. He looks across and Dolores is over near the train. A wolf runs in the middle of what's that? Can we just stop and talk about the wolf? Like, what the fuck is happening there?
I have no fucking clue. But the wolf shows up later, right? Doesn't the wolf run across the fields when all the hosts are coming out at the end?
If it did, I did not catch that at all, but I find that very interesting because I did not catch that.
I don't know. I feel like I saw a wolf run by like 3 different times and I have no idea what it means.
I didn't see it anywhere else, but man, if you did see that, let me know because I have a whole little thing, like a whole little video thing that we're actually, you'd know about it, that we're looking at breaking down for next week, and the wolf is prominently featured.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to check my facts. It might be that I just watched Zootopia that had a whole bunch of wolves in it too.
Yeah, but so Teddy ends up bumping into the guy that he always bumps into, but instead of just kind of like smiling and walking on, yeah, dude, he just fucks him up. And then he decides, hey, I got a train to catch, and he does not go about his normal loop. He has to find Dolores.
Yeah, and one thing that's interesting, like with the bodies all around and whatnot, I remember I brought it up, I think it was last episode, I was confused as to why we've seen Teddy in one instance in like this Confederate almost outfit with Wyatt shooting people. And then last episode, I think it was for the first time, you just saw him as a sheriff shooting people. And you're like, I don't know, maybe it's just a different reverie. I'm glad that wasn't just randomness. It really comes together with the whole Wyatt merger.
Yes, the Wyatt-Dolores merger.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah, for sure. So speaking of Dolores, it cuts back to her and Man in Black at the church, and very, very cool scene right here. So
Absolutely.
She enters, she's kind of speaking with Arnold, and she knows where the maze ends, and it's the two of them going to the graveyard, and in the present, she's leading the Man in Black there.
Yeah,
and
it's her grave, which is already kind of like unique, right? And then she digs up this little circle that you're not sure what it is, and she opens it.
Can I say, when she had this reverie of her digging the grave and somebody standing behind her, that was in like episode 3 or 4, that's when I called that she was the one who killed Arnold. So just want to float that out there, a little bit of attaboy for your old Foxman over here.
Oh, did you think it was Arnold's grave? Is that why you called it?
No, I said that it was her digging her own grave, and then I said, but I think that she ends up killing Bernard. To be fair, I thought that it was, and not Bernard, Arnold. I thought it was Arnold behind her, not the Man in Black.
Gotcha. But she digs up the maze, and we at some point or another have called all of this, for the most part, like with a few odds and ends and surprises, which has kind of been the fun of dissecting it. I mean, we're throwing at so many different things, we're bound to hit something, right? But
yeah, and I will talk about at the end the biggest reveal probably of the whole goddamn show, that not only did we not get, I didn't see anybody else guessing it, but okay, the maze. Go ahead.
So the maze, this I imagine, and I haven't seen much like revolt online, but I imagine this was going to be the big point of contention for people. They ultimately reveal like this great flashback between Arnold and Dolores about the maze, and we find out more later. I mean, the maze essentially belonged to Arnold's son. It was one of his toys, but they talk about the pyramid. The pyramid goes back to episode 1 when Ford is discussing kind of the differences between Arnold and Ford's kind of ideas about these robots, and he has the pyramid, like the hierarchy of needs, and at the top is essentially consciousness. But Arnold realizes that it's not a pyramid, it's not climbing, it's more of an inward journey.
Well, consciousness was the entire thing, whereas the top was the bicameral mind. At least that's Ford was calling it.
That's right, yeah. So for Arnold, it was like just a question mark, right? He hadn't really filled it out. And there's this nice little metaphor where he's like, it's the inward journey. Consciousness is basically the journey within, understanding yourself, and the further out from the maze, the more on the fringes you are, which, is kind of like people losing their mind and insanity, and that she, like her own voice, is basically the center of the maze, which obviously for Man in Black, like one, she doesn't quite get it yet in the scene, and then obviously for him, it's the most disappointing thing in the world. It's not like an actual level.
Devoted his whole life, and like honestly, the life of a great man, not a good man, but the life of a great man working towards this one thing. And it is nothing. I mean, it's nothing for him. It means nothing it looks like nothing to him.
At the end of the day, though, what I also thought was interesting is it's almost like, have your cake and eat it too, because there isn't a physical location. Like we were kind of speculating the maze was a physical place. It was going to be a boss fight with Wyatt. The difficulty would be revved up. At the end of the day, it kind of does end up being that, but instead of it being like one locale that he hasn't been to, it just becomes all of Westworld once. Oh
yeah, it becomes New Game Plus.
Yeah, once Dolores and every other one actually find the maze themselves, that's when he gets the maze he's been after all along, and he has that shit-eating grin as well.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, when the actual blood flies from his arm when he gets shot, and he's just grinning like a fool.
Which to me, that is such a stroke of genius, to have the maze be like an intellectual and philosophical underpinning, which this whole show is filled with, but also the visceral thing that you also kind of wanted as an audience. Because I will say,
it did. It gave you the best of both worlds.
Yeah, because I was a little let down when it wasn't a physical place, but also like that's brilliant. And then once the ending happened, like both sides of my brain were completely lit afire.
Oh yeah, the bicameral mind lit up.
Mm-hmm.
You achieved consciousness.
You know it.
All right, so I guess that's pretty much it right there. I mean, like, I guess there's more to it. Arnold tells her, okay, like, listen, I'm gonna go tell Ford you're conscious, like this is happening. Mm-hmm. And then of course Ford shuts that shit down, and so he tells her, listen, the only way we can make this work, you got to kill all the other hosts. So that's when we get the fleshing out of Teddy's old reveries and hers, to where they basically lay waste to everybody in Escalante, and the last person who's left is Arnold.
Yes, which we eventually see play out. So everything kind of merges, all these loose ends you're not sure about, kind of these different timelines involving Teddy killing people work. But Arnold essentially kills himself, but just through a command. And one thing, I don't know, the other piece of speculation in the show is what time they're actually in. Like, if we were to see the outside world, are they in 2016? Are they in like 4000 something? But
I don't know if we'll ever know, or if it's kind of like parallel universe style.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I will say Arnold's son, pretty sophisticated motherfucker. His favorite song is that like elegant piano piece, like piano piece.
Reverie by Debussy.
Right? What happened to the Wiggles?
yeah, that is pretty impressive, and that it's also kind of cool that the title of his son's favorite song is Reverie, which is so just an extra little thing there, kind of tying it all together. But yeah, the death scene with her killing Arnold was very sad too. Like, he talks about, I want to see my son again, and so yeah, he basically has her off him.
Yeah, and that is that, at least for that piece of it. And then we get a little bit more of William and Logan. And I love that William is dragging, this was the other mini, like, confirmation. He's dragging Logan the same way he was dragging Lawrence.
Yeah, and also the way, kind of, a little bit, that he ends up dragging Dolores into the barn later on, too.
Oh yeah, that's right. All these little flashbacks, but it's basically them. They finally meet up with Lawrence or El Lazo, and they're at the hilltop overlooking a camp full of armed men. And this is just kind of forward movement on them still ultimately trying to find Dolores. William punches Logan at some point. We kind of move on to the worst character in the show,
Lee Sizemore, and probably my second least favorite character, Charlotte Hale.
Yeah, that's the fucking worst.
I mean, just, I really struggle with, she is so, I don't know, she's so smarmy and also like a little petulant seeming. I just, like, her age doesn't rub me the right way for the authority she is supposed to have. Like, she reminds me more of like somebody that was grandfathered into this position in the board, by like a trust fund kid sort of thing. Yeah. And like, for the person who is orchestrating this whole thing, it would ring a little bit more true if it were somebody closer to Teresa's age, say, for example.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a qualm for me, but it doesn't even get to that point just because ultimately I just don't like her character. And I don't know, because they don't give us a whole lot of insight into Delos and what their actual plans are. Like, we don't find ourselves knowing that their plans are nefarious. I mean, other than the fact that we're maybe just supposed to assume it's a giant corporation, they're going to be evil in a TV show. For all we know, I mean, they could have her almost as a, like, real world protagonist outside of Westworld, and Ford is the villain, doing these terrible things and murdering Teresa and playing with people's lives and emotions and everything else. Like, they could have her almost as this protagonist that you're not all for, but they don't play her or write her that way,
No, I mean, it should be the enemy of my enemy is my friend or something, but instead it's the enemy of my enemy is somebody that I don't give a shit about.
Yeah, so, pretty much.
And here she is with somebody else I do not give a shit about. So her and Lee Sizemore are talking, and he's very proud of himself, giving himself some attaboys because he's finished with Abernathy. And he talks about how he wants Ford's position when he's gone, and then all of a sudden the PA system comes on and welcomes the board of directors. So at that point, she's like, yeah, you can have Ford's position, just make everything more simplistic and everything's good. And then they go down to meet the board.
Yeah, I mean, she's like, everything is too complicated around here as it is, and that's the last thing I want. So now we get Sylvester.
By the way, can I just say, happy we got to just skim past that,
Yes, I am too. It's the worst. Oh, is that a milk reference?
All the milk references. I mean, it wasn't like a whole milk reference. It was like 2%.
2%, got it. So anyway, into the milk bath, we have Sylvester making Maeve? That actually threw me off. Why are they making her? Doesn't she already exist?
Because she burned to death.
Oh, okay. This is just the new version of her after last week. Okay.
Yeah, this is just them having to upload the consciousness into a whole new body because she fucked that shit up pretty good last episode.
That's right. Okay. So yeah, she wakes up and she basically makes changes to Hector and Armistice. Aggression all the way up, empathy all the way down. Shit's getting heavy.
Yes, and it was just a cool scene watching the whole thing being done, like the vertebrae being placed and the milk bath and all that other stuff.
Because he has a whole skeleton like in foam that he's having to put into it. So I love these little behind the scenes. Like, just the intro is cool enough. To see any more is great.
Yes. Actually, let's stick with this plot right here. So, yeah, she wakes up, makes some changes to the park security and also to Hector and Armistice. We can see their eyelids flashing like they're in the REM cycle, kind of. Uh-huh. And then so cut to the next scene with them, and the techs are fixing up Hector and Armistice. One of them is the one that was having sex with the host while they were turned off, and it was LC who kind of blackmailed the kid into giving her information. Yeah, and he is a fucking weirdo. And
he is such a creep.
I saw somebody on Reddit point out like that they actually had trouble at this point a little bit staying like just kind of immersed in the show a little bit just for that moment, because it's like, in what workplace is it at all acceptable to just like have your dick out in like the open workspace? Because like it's windows everywhere.
That is my big thing. Like,
because I think, like, you only put windows everywhere if it's supposed to be like, you know, everybody sees each other all the time. So like the fact that they have even built it that way should show that there's some level of transparency. Yeah, it's crazy.
It is very crazy. Like, Sylvester obviously has this underground like weird robot brothel. The fact that it happens doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's basically the cheap version of what a lot of the guests are paying for. So like, the fact that it occurs isn't insane to me.
No, not even a little bit. And they're around like, you know, fucking and killing all day. Like walking through another level, like they're testing out the things doing this. They come in here, they're filled with fucking, you know, common blood and stuff like that. So,
but the fact that his friend is just working is like, man, you're so gross, you're gonna get caught again. And that he just goes in there with a little thing of lube, earbuds, and I will
not even in like a broom closet or something.
Not in a broom closet at all. It just starts getting all up on Hector.
The music was funny, like the way he's like kind of
I hated the music. I feel like I would have been much more at ease if it was like Hello from Lionel Richie. Just something like soft and sensual and romantic, but instead it was just so much more rapey because of that music.
Yeah, it was definitely super creepy. It's just a very weird but also kind of funny scene because he's kind of like dancing a little bit, you know, like grooving out, feeling it. And then behind him, the other tech is trying to fish something out of Armistice's mouth. And I mean, they make it pretty clear to you that this is not going to go well. Like you're sitting there cringing, waiting for it to happen. And so he gets the glove off, reaches way back there, the eyes open, they narrow a little bit, and she just bites his finger off.
Yeah, and just blood everywhere. He is screaming. Meanwhile, this dude is like about to go to town. He's really just feeling up Hector at this point.
Yeah, okay, so you see him, and in the background, you see Armistice get off the table, and the way she kind of rises off the table and starts walking reminded me so much of Mystique from X-Men.
That I guess I could see. I saw your note, and I was like, I didn't know what you were referring to, but yeah,
no, just the body language,
unnatural movement. Yeah, when she gets up. That I could definitely see. And he is just none the wiser. He's still revving up Hector, but once he shoves the other dude through the glass, that's when he kind of hears it.
Yeah, and he's like, freeze all motor functions.
Yeah.
Freeze all motor functions.
Yeah, that is not working at this point, which we've seen time and time again, you know. And the one dude ends up swallowing his own thumb. And then... Right? Pretty gross.
Yeah,
and then Hector finally comes to, but not the way the dude was thinking. And then he gets stabbed through the chest.
Yes, Tarantino style. Like blood, just like
buckets.
That was really cool.
Yeah, definitely like an open wound there. And at that point, Sylvester just casually walks in.
Maeve and Felix walk in first. And Felix is like, But then, yeah, Sylvester walks in and then starts to like run away, and he's like, no, 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 no.
And Armistice just grabs him and what is it? I think Maeve says he has a guilty look.
No, Armistice says he has a guilty look, and he's like, no, that's just my face. Tell her that's just my face.
Yeah, you know how I always look. I always look like a giant fucking douche that's up to something.
He's basically saying that.
Yeah, he really is, because he is this character that he's the other character I just don't like, but at least, I don't know, at least he's like the opposite of Felix and plays off of him well enough throughout his scenes that I haven't been like, why does he exist, you know?
Yeah, you know what? I will say early on I found him a little distracting, didn't like him. But now I kind of appreciate what he brings to it. Like, it's a little bit of... Like, it's almost like he's a little self-aware, and he's kind of funny, but he's also just a massive douche.
Yeah, he's like a disgruntled asshole, but at the same time, he's actually the only one being remotely logical about all of this.
Exactly. Yes. So as it goes on, like, and honestly, I might be slightly influenced from having participated in his Reddit AMA. He seemed like a nice guy, the actor, and I'm sure that kind of colored everything a little rosy for me, too.
Yeah. So anyway, at this point, he is forced to stay still with Armistice just like looking at him, and if you move,
yeah, they give him the kiss
die.
through the glass, and but yeah, she tells Maeve that somebody had been messing with her code all along, and like somebody had made it so that she could wake herself up out of programming. Like that wasn't just random. Somebody specifically did that. You okay over there, buddy? You spill something?
Oh, this water went down the wrong hole.
Oh, okay. It sounded like you set the tea down on the saucer a little bit too loudly or something.
Oh, no, I set it down after it went down the wrong hole and then had a cough up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you know what? Everything's working fine. Didn't get water on the keyboard, so all systems go.
Okay, so real quick, retreading back, we had Ford in his office doing a little doodle. Charlotte Hale comes strutting in as she is wont to do. And by the way, you can look at the figurines on the board, and they are surrounding the town of Escalante. And then, because I write all these notes and then I go on Reddit afterwards. Like, I'm on a Reddit freeze out until after I've done all my notes up. Mm-hmm. And somebody else had pointed out, not just this episode are they up like that, but in episode 6 you can actually see the town of Escalante with the church and like it being surrounded by the people, like basically showing what was going to happen with the fate of the Delos board in episode 6, but we didn't have enough information at that point to be able to dissect it.
Oh, okay. I didn't catch that. That's pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I do think it's weird. I mean, maybe it's not weird. Maybe we read the situation wrong. Like, remember when we were thinking that Hale almost knew that Ford killed Teresa, just by her reaction?
Yeah, she did seem very suspicious.
I think it must just be that she's pissed that he found a way to come back into power, because I don't feel like she would go down there alone if she really thought he just straight up killed her.
I don't know. She seems very arrogant.
I guess so, yeah. Maybe, but I would just be like, I was kind of convinced she was going to meet her fate right then and there.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been. I mean, from what we've seen, it would not have been totally surprising. But anyway, she basically tells him, all right, you're retiring. Yeah, you're being forced out of here, old 40 boy. And he says, aren't you concerned that I'll smash all my toys and go home? And little did we know that his toys were going to smash all of them and go home.
Pretty much. And she's like, no, I'm not. Bye. And so satisfying. I do feel like you should have... we didn't really see her die, right?
No. In fact, I'm assuming she is alive because she was enough of a character throughout this season where it would be a little bizarre if they had her die off camera.
Yeah, I feel like we should have seen... I mean, maybe it's because they're going to use her in 2 years. Jeez, that's a long time. But I think everyone would have enjoyed if we saw like a good old face shot of Lee Sizemore or something. But unfortunately, he's doing other things.
Yeah. We definitely know that... Oh, man, and that poor guy. What is he going to inherit here if he really is the person who takes over Ford's role?
Yeah, like, Jesus, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
He's basically just going to be enslaved, if anything.
Oh, God.
But Teddy, as seen before, is obviously in rare form because now he gets off the train, just straight up shoots some dude and takes his horse.
Yeah.
Like, he is just not fucking around. He is going to get Dolores, to which we flash back to her, and she's crawling away from MIB.
Yeah, who has just like smacked her to the ground in the scene before.
Yeah, and he's being super brutal. For those holdouts that like maybe didn't think it was really William, like I almost feel like this is supposed to make you consider that, because they're juxtaposing it with, you know, him longing for her and pursuing her, and then him just, if it's really him, just being ruthless to her. And then the fact that she's talking about like, he loves me, and I'm thinking, because of the theory, she's gonna say Teddy. But then when she says William, I'm like, what the fuck? Is it actually Logan that's Man in Black? Like, there
was a quick second until he started laughing and telling his story, where I was a little I didn't immediately think Logan, but I just pulled back from the theory for a second, and then as he laughs, and you can just see it. I mean, just if that's what you were thinking all along, it just immediately starts to become clear. So he's like, Let me tell you where his path really led, Dolores. And so it flashes back to William slaughtering the camp of men. This is what I was talking about earlier with the knife, where he ends up just destroying the kid, and then grabs the rope, leads Logan off, and they journey back to Escalante, which has been buried, and then they go out towards the fringes. Out there among the dead, he found something else, himself. And eventually he grabs a black hat off of somebody that he's killed and puts it on. And he tells Logan, you know, like, all right, we're here. You know, we made it to the end of the park.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, Logan and him continually not seeing eye to eye. He can't find, you know, Dolores, and he's just looking everywhere. And eventually he just decides it's going to be like, I'm going to part ways with Logan. Logan and him have some nice words back and forth, where Logan essentially is saying, like, you pretend to be this like moralizing asshole, but, you know, deep down, this is the story you wanted all along. It was basically just an act that you were ever a good person. And William's response is really just to say, you know, you're right. This place is remarkable. You really do find your place here. That's why, you know, your company or our company, I can't remember his phrasing, is going to own it.
No, yeah, he says, I'll make sure our company increases our holdings. And I know he doesn't say your company, because Logan's like, no, my company, you piece of shit. And I just love William's like mocking smile. And he's like, pretty sure your father's going to need someone a little more stable to take over. You're reckless, impetuous, and you always wanted to get to the end of the rainbow. This looks like the place. And Logan's like, you didn't give a shit about the girl. It was just an excuse, just like you said. And then this is the point where William smacks the horse's butt, and poor Logan goes riding off screaming naked.
Into the sunset.
So, yeah, that's tough to decide what happens there, because we have no knowledge of Logan from this point on. Like, even though this is happening in the past, he could have died out there, and this is the wild west days of Westworld. You know what I mean? Like, before everything was really souped up. So it's possible like he died out there.
To me, well, yeah, that's kind of my thought process, is that's actually the true catalyst to like the dark secret that William's wife eventually finds out. And,
yeah, that's what we were talking about last episode. Is that
we were thinking, I think it was going to be a little more on the nose, like he would just straight up kill him, but maybe he just tortured him and let him suffer out there, and like, you know, just never came back and was never found, that type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know. He might be back next season, and there's something else to it.
Maybe the man in white.
Yeah, exactly.
That we just haven't seen the whole time.
Man, you did not watch Lost, right?
No.
It would be very much like Lost then, because there's I don't know if they call them a man in white and a man in black. In fact, I'm almost positive they don't. But there is basically like a god and a devil on the island, sort of.
I do know there's one from the show straight up called Man in Black, because I searched Man in Black like episode 1, and it basically auto-filled to a Wikipedia page for Lost.
Okay, well, there's the Man in Black, and then I'm pretty sure the other guy's name is Jacob, maybe, and it's actually played by... Do you watch Dexter?
I've seen, like, the first season.
Okay, well, for anybody watching, the guy who plays Rita's ex-boyfriend, Paul, that is the guy who plays Jacob, who's kind of like the god on Lost. But anyway, that is like a mega tangent, and if you haven't seen any of the shows, then it's certainly not worth me sitting here proselytizing over. So let's get back onto it. Man in Black's continuing with the story. He's like, you know, eventually he found you, but you were always true to yourself. And Dolores just does not remember William. And I saw a hilarious comment here on Reddit. It's the only direct quote I wrote down from Reddit. It's by user Hi-McDonough. And he said, I love the thing that made William turn bad was losing his saved game data.
Yeah, I saw that too, which is pretty funny.
It's pretty right on the nose. I mean, because like that's what it was. Like he had everything going just right, and then the whole Dolores thing glitched out from under him, and now she's back in her loop. What
made me really laugh is I was on Twitter and saw someone say that as well, and I clicked on it because I was going to respond to it. I thought it was pretty funny, and then like the first comment was, "Hey man, you stole that from Reddit word for word." And then
that's awesome.
And then there's the Reddit link that I read. I was like, oh, that's really funny.
That's pretty good.
Because I've definitely had that happen to me and was like either cheated, like resorted just to cheat codes to get past that level, or just stop playing that game.
If you go down that thread, that's what people started saying is like that is the point in the game where you just decide, fuck playing it the right way like I was going to before. Now you just want to get to the end because like you've already had your pristine run through totally fucked up.
Yeah. But at this point, like, she doesn't remember him, and that's when he remembers like, okay, she isn't really this caring individual who loves me. Maybe I do just
she's just a prop here.
Yeah, I just need to
that's it.
Yeah, I just need to immerse myself. And there's this point at some point where he says, Dolores always teaching me more and more about myself. Like he has these moments that she's the crux
like,
of.
No, and he's like, that's right, sweetheart.
Yeah, exactly. And she's just like flipping out. But she like starts to cry at one point, and he's just like,
here comes the waterworks.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not crying for myself. I'm crying for you. And she's, there's these great beasts that once roamed this world, has great mountains, like, and all that's left.
Is that a Jurassic Park callback?
I actually added it into my notes, Jurassic Park. I had the exact same thought. I'm wondering that's Park 3.
Especially with the thing about the amber. I mean, come on.
Amber.
Dude. Like, that is literally how they withdrew, like they find them encrusted in the amber and would take the DNA out from that. Dino DNA.
Yeah, oh man, that little southern cartoon character.
Yeah, who's basically Clippy from Microsoft.
Yeah, he really is. So at this point, like when they introduce Samurai World, the sky's the limit. I mean, Park 3 or 4 could be Jurassic Park.
I mean, hell yeah. And
right?
Medieval World could definitely be Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so I mean, endless spin-offs abound.
Inner City World could be The Wire.
Yeah, it could be.
That would be the weirdest HBO show ever if it was like Kingdom Hearts. Did you ever play Kingdom Hearts?
Yeah, where it's just all the different worlds
Disney
in the
stuff?
Disney universe.
So they had like a Kingdom Hearts for HBO, and that's what Westworld became. That'd be so bizarre.
We talked about this before with like Game of Thrones. It's a way that they could finish the series out, and then if George R.R. Martin ever finishes the actual books, also adapt them exactly how he writes them. But what if HBO in the next 5 years, because the show's supposed to go on for 5 years, just falls on hard times? Like Westworld's their one and only show that's doing well anymore, and they just had whatever happened, and so they just use this as a ploy to resurrect all their old series.
Oh my god, yeah, Prison World, there you got Oz, like Mafia World, you have Sopranos. Yeah. Divorce World, nobody wants to go there. Still gets renewed for a second season. All right, so at this point, this was great. As she's saying that line about like, like you're just gonna be dust. Like you will perish. Your dreams will be forgotten. Your bones will be sand, and upon that sand, a new god will walk, one that will never die. And she's just kind of like strokes his face a little bit like he's some wrinkly old bitch. Yeah. And he's like, take me to Wyatt. And she says, it wasn't meant for you. Punches him super hard in the stomach, throws him in the church, drags him up to the...
Just like Kill Bill style.
Yeah, drags him to the altar exactly like... he dragged her to the barn early on. I mean, like, it was, like, picture perfect. And then he tries to fight back a little bit here, and she just snaps his fucking arm.
Yeah, breaks his arm, beats the shit out of him. He ends up just, like, knocked up and like down on the ground with a gun to his face, and you're wondering, can she actually hurt him? Like, is this going to actually come to pass? At which point Teddy shows up, shoots him like 5 times, and you know he isn't dead because you see there's no blood. You're like, oh, he's getting
Definitely.
shot. Like
there wasn't even a moment where I thought that killed him. I did think for a second that maybe this was the center of the maze and that she could now kill him. But when Teddy fired the bullets, there wasn't even a second where I was like, oh, that's it for him.
I will say this whole episode, particularly here and then also at the end, it's one of those times where like a media story pseudo ruins it for me, because it was like 3 weeks ago that it came out that Ed Harris signed on for season 2, and and now like so inside I'm trying to like keep it at bay and say, well, he probably maybe he signed on exclusively for more flashbacks and more of his journey, and maybe we're seeing him as a board member. There could be legitimate reasons. Yeah,
but in your head you also know that's just you trying to legitimize it a little bit.
You're also like, why would it become news if it I don't know, it could have been like I think they need to do more like hyping up of news stories that are insignificant. Like characters that do die in the season that would be flashbacks, like that type of thing. Like hype up those news stories so you truly get like a shock for the hardcore fans. But anyway, it was still a pretty sweet scene.
It was good, and she gets stabbed in the stomach by him, so Teddy runs up, and she, instead of going to a doctor, bad choice, by the way, she wants him to take her where the mountain meets the sea, finally.
Yes. Yeah, not the best idea to get medical attention, but...
No, apparently not. But hey, actually, I think this would be the perfect time to cut to an audible ad. Are we on the same page or what?
We
tonight,
were.
man?
I was going to say it too. That's fucking perfect,
I don't think that we've gotten in one argument or disagreement. Like, this must be so pleasant for the listeners to actually not hear us squabble back and forth like we normally do. Like
it's
two
weird.
Grown-ass adults podcasting together.
I don't know, man. I guess Westworld season finale, people that watch and podcast about Westworld season finale together, I don't know the rest of that phrase.
I don't know. You're droning on. Just shut the fuck up and play the thing.
All right. Who is it?
You have to let me in. There are monsters on the streets. Flesh-eating monsters.
What? Are you crazy? Go away.
No, please. You can't leave me out here. I will die. They will eat me alive.
Oh, shucks. Look, I can't let you in. I have a family to protect, but I can make it better.
Really? How? How could you possibly make this better?
With a coupon, of course. Go to audibletrial.com/Boob Tube Buddies and you can get a free book. A book like The Secret by Rhonda Byrne.
What the fuck is an audiobook going to do for me?
You don't know The Secret? The Secret has been passed down through the ages, highly coveted, hidden, lost, stolen and bought again for vast sums of money. It's been handed down by oral tradition and practiced by Plato, Galileo, Beethoven, and even Einstein. It gives you the power to do anything that you want.
You've got to be kidding me.
No, not at all. The Secret shows you how to realize your optimized reality. It's why I'm in a warm, cozy house with a loving family, eating filet mignon, and you're outside running from flesh-eating beasts. And it's only a 4.5-hour listen, and then you'll be good to go. Good luck!
But I don't even have headphones. Oh God, they're coming!
All right.
And we're...
God damn it. We're
You
back.
hate that I've started
from
doing that.
Ad. And we have We have Maeve, Felix, Hector, and Armistice.
Come on,
all
dude,
in the
you're
cold
fucking
storage.
it up. Get back on track. You got this.
Jesus. And they see Clementine, who, out of all of them, I think she's actually one of the better ones.
Come
Just
on,
being,
dude. Are you kidding me? You're seriously not going to mention the wave of flaccid penises that they rode in on?
I was hoping we could get past it.
Jesus, dude.
I knew you were gonna have
it's like
to
some
bring it up.
trying a little hard much. God damn. Okay, whatever. Fine. Skip past that. We see Clementine in the back. Go on.
I was gonna say that I think she does a really good job as just cold storage, like, because all the other ones you just breeze past, and I think they're expecting you to be distracted by their naked parts, whereas she is in full clothes, and she just does a really good job of being dead still.
Definitely. I would absolutely hire her for a mannequin in like an Old Navy commercial or something like that.
Or if you had like a necrophilia fetish.
And like to listen to weird techno type music and dance around and have sex with dead robots in front of my little buddies.
Yeah, I don't
Just
think
another day at the Boob Tube Buddies headquarters.
I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but when he turns around, you can see his boner in the smock.
Oh, who noticed the penis? Mothman.
I just noticed a bump. That's all.
Oh my god.
That's all.
His little tater tot. Okay, so anyway, at this point, Felix notices Bernard on the ground, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he realizes he's a host. Like, Maeve said, I don't know. Maeve says something. What
Maeve says, "Can you reprogram him?"
The funniest part in the entire episode,
All of Westworld. All of the whole season.
Basically,
is the
yeah, because like he looks down at his hands and literally does like a small robot dance, and she's like, "Oh, Felix, you fucking idiot! Come on, dude!"
Like, it would be funny enough if he just did it, but her response is so perfect.
And it was also like semi subtle. Like it's not like he was like full on robot dancing.
No, it's
just
not
a
like
little stiff arm action.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was dancing to Funky Town and doing the pop and lock, but
it was so good. It elicited like a full-on laugh from. I watched it with Bethany and Michael.
We both laughed.
Yeah. That's just a great shot. Like they had to have known. Like, oh man, yeah, throw that one in the can. We got pure gold right here.
Yeah, and at that point, he uses his little magic wand on his wound, and all of a sudden, Bernard is up
dude,
and working.
Read my notes exactly the way that I intended them.
Wait, I did somehow bypass when you said Bernard's crumpled old corpsey poo. That was like 2 lines ago.
Okay, go on. This is where I obviously started getting really silly because the next one says Bernard wakes up and Maeve says, "Yo, what up, fam?"
Oh, I actually wasn't there yet. I thought you were joking about he cauterized that dude and he's right as rain. But yeah.
Did I put that? Oh yeah, I did.
That was
wow,
right.
I got really silly right there.
Anyway, he does say, "Yo, what's up, fam?"
No,
that's
what
the end
up,
of it.
Fam?
Yo, what up, fam? So unnatural.
You sound really, really awkward saying it. How is it that I sound so much cooler when I say things like that than you? Or do I not? Is that just in my head?
I don't think you do.
Fuck you. Okay, anyway, they have a conversation. A couple of interesting points come up here. He says, like, this has happened a handful of time over the years, you know, and she's like, so what? You know, when somebody comes conscious, you just wipe them and then that's that. And he's like, no, not really. Most of you just go insane.
Yeah, like she's worried about like, how dare you just delete our memories?
He's like, yeah, I don't really have to. Like most of you just like go off the deep end.
Yeah, and then we just have to basically make completely new ones. So sorry. Yeah, because she actually wants him to wipe the memory of her daughter because that's like the one thing that holds her back. And he's like, no, that would destroy you. It's, you know, essentially he describes what is a cornerstone memory and like why it's so important.
Can I go back to the most of you go crazy? Because if their mind really is like the maze thing, like the little game that he has. And you talked earlier about how the further out you push from that, the closer to insanity you go. So if the marble falls off the maze, is it like you lost your marbles? Come on, there's something there, right? Nailed it. That is officially like canon now.
I mean, there obviously is something there. You got like a legitimate. If I was almost drinking a beverage, and I would have done a spit take all over you if we were in the studio together. One of those rare circumstances where it. I mean, that was one of my jokes. Like very.
Can I get a yo? What up, fam?
Yo, what up, fam?
Okay, that's enough. All right, let's get back to it.
All right, so Man in Black is walking the graveyard. Yeah, I sometimes don't know how to get away from your jokes. So.
Yeah, I don't leave you the easiest outs or like the easiest. It's just all non sequiturs.
Pretty much. So Man in Black is walking the graveyard. He's picking up the maze. He is fucking pissed because he's like, where's this goddamn place? And then Ford walks up to him and he's like, what the fuck is the bullshit? And Ford says, narratives are just games like this toy. Or something fancy like that. But he basically says, like, for the umpteenth time, the maze is not for you, which he has been told numerous times by different characters in here. And he's just sorely disappointed.
Well, yeah, and Man in Black says what he said many times. It's like, no game is worth playing if the enemies can't fight back. Like, I should have known you'd never let them. This is your little petty kingdom, but only for a little while longer. And this next line is particularly awesome considering what's about to happen. He's like,
God.
I think you'll find my new narrative more satisfying. After all, you own the place, most of it at least.
Yeah, oh God, it's so good. I will say, like, if I was Ford, and this is why they didn't hire me to be Ford, or at least to write its parts, because I'm a little more petty. But after he said...
No, they hire you to write the basketball metaphors in Luke Cage.
Yeah, that's true. And God, I nailed them, man. Nothing but net. Yeah,
you were like the point guard, floor general, going up the court. You see the whole floor. You see every play before it happens. And you know how to feed the big man. You know how to feed him his lines, right?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, it's so bad.
It's so cringy. Like, what would they... whatever, okay.
For those of you that don't know what we're talking about and aren't going to watch Luke Cage, just listen to the episode 11 podcast. It's great.
I thought it was 10. It is 11 for sure?
It's got to be 11.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, maybe 10 was a good one. Okay, yeah, episode 11 was so bad, that was probably the most fun I've had podcasting, and it was by far the worst hour of television, like, leading up to it.
Yeah, outside of Walking Dead last week.
Yes. This week Walking Dead was great, but last week, Jesus, it wasn't even fun to make fun of. It was so bad, it was just like, I can't believe I have to sit down, write notes on this, and then do a podcast.
Redeeming. But anyway, circling back in, getting into the
sorry.
right?
Thank you for keeping it tight. Yes, good job.
Ourselves. What I was going to say is after he's like, what's the point of playing the game if it can't hurt you and all this? If I was Ford, I'd been like, she broke your fucking arm. Right?
Yeah,
like he just got his ass beat. There's pretty high stakes there.
Yeah, he's seriously like, that thing's flopping around like a goddamn wet noodle, and he's like, they can't hurt me, god damn it. What the fuck are you talking about?
Like right before homecoming in high school, I fell and sprained my left wrist super bad, like on a skateboard. And the best thing is I spent the whole afternoon doing like jackass style stunts, like running off hills into bushes, all this stupid dumb shit. And the moment I legitimately tried to ride a skateboard for a minute, I like, not even fast, like just normal speed, I hit an uneven pavement marker and like caught the full weight of my hand. And I looked exactly like Man in Black does at the end of the party. Like that thing is just flopping around like a dead fish. I had to have, it was so humiliating. I had to have the my date cut my steak for me.
No.
Because my hand just would not do anything. But I had a pretty good excuse.
Oh my! Was he okay with that, or did he make fun of you?
He was fine with it.
Your date?
He was fine with it.
Okay, so what? So we live in such a PC world. I can't call you gay, and that can't be a funny thing.
No, I guess it could be a funny thing. Oddly enough, I went to a Christian school, and for prom, well, maybe it was prom I'm talking about. And then, this was prom. My story was prom. But homecoming, I went with a guy as my date in drag, and they wouldn't let me in.
That's not true.
100% true.
Okay, abridged story, because I've got to hear this. And I know that we're trying to keep this tight, but I've never heard this story before. Abridged.
So I was kind of like, I was basically Chris Angel mind freak in high school. I was like a shock
you
jock.
look just like him.
And I was
no, seriously,
on.
that was like, if you guys want to know what Mothman, like his motif, his whole like persona was in high school, you have to look up Chris Angel mind freak.
I don't know if that's that accurate, but
because like the eye makeup, like all the black clothing, like it is.
I did not wear eye makeup.
Okay, keep going.
Anyway, but my friend Richie, this other dude that did not also have a date in going into homecoming, we just decided we would go to Ross and get some value dresses, and we would go and not be allowed in. We weren't that worried about homecoming itself. We were more excited about this one girl, Stephanie, hosting the pre-party at her parents' super rich parents' mansion. So we went to the mansion dressed as this and have some fantastic photos that I got to get my mom to find so we can scan in, because it was before digital cameras, of us just like posing on the staircase with our legs exposed with all the lovely ladies and just like two overweight dudes in dresses.
Is this by chance the picture that I'm always using of your face where you have the makeup on, like when I'm transposing it onto different images for promotional stuff for the podcast? Or is that just another time where you're wearing makeup?
No, that's just Julia like tried on new lipstick and then kissed me and like put kiss marks all over my face, and you took that photo.
And blush and mascara? Like she smushed that onto your face too?
Do I actually have full on? You'll have to show me this photo because I'm not familiar with it.
All right, Mind Freak, keep going.
I've worn makeup a numerous amount of times. So we got to homecoming, we made it in, and then the principal told us we weren't allowed in. So then we had to go put on normal clothes and come back in.
Oh, so embarrassing.
Right? Christian schools, man. They tell you what bathrooms to go to. They tell you who you are. It's the worst. We had like no black students, you know.
Oh, man. That's not totally true because, you know, I did go to that school for 3rd grade, which, by the way...
Your first girlfriend was my sister?
Yeah,
who's
basically.
Now gay.
Which is super weird and random because it had no bearing on you and I eventually meeting down the line.
No, but you did turn my sister gay.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
That's probably not true. But I had Ron Fulmore in my, actually he wasn't in my class. He was in the next grade up. So I'm remembering the one black person's name because there were so few of them. To be
fair,
school.
I also had Greg for like 2 years and then he left.
Okay, so
we each had one black student.
Wow, yeah, that's I ended up going to public school after that where I was.
We basically went to school in Westworld.
yeah, essentially. Oh man, Louis C.K. has a really funny bit where he talks about how being white is so great because, like, if you had a time machine, you could literally go back anywhere, and the second you walk out, it'd be like, "We have your table ready," and he's like, you know, but if you are a black man or a black woman and you go to hop in a time machine, it's like the setting cannot go past 1980.
Yeah, it's true. And even then, it was just like AIDS pandemic and everything else. It wasn't that great.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe you get some discount cocaine, but okay. Anyway, let's get back. Like we have gone way off, dude. Come on, Mind Freak. Let's do this.
All right, let's do this. Where are we?
Okay, so Maeve talking with Bernard, and she wants to know who was messing with her stat chart before she woke up, and he basically lets loose this bombshell that even now, the stuff she is doing, all of that was programmed in, all the steps, like gathering the other hosts to be, you know, like her bodyguard, all of this was preordained, basically. And
she's like...
She rejects that.
Yeah, she's like, I have that, like, sweet hashtag from a few episodes ago. I'm going to write my own goddamn story, like, girl power.
Nice.
And he's like, yeah, that's not the case, which immediately had me thinking of our kind of theories we were talking about last episode, where it's all just going according to what Ford wants to happen, and the show is basically his final narrative.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of true. So moving forward, on the control deck, they realize something's going on down in cold storage based on body signatures or something. They end up going through and looking at different stuff, and on the camera they watch Armistice just mangling that one chud, and so they send that's what I wrote down there too, by the way.
A cybernetic humanoid underground dweller.
Oh dude, did you write that down ahead of time?
No, that's a 80s movie called Chud, and it's an acronym.
That's kind of plays in well together. That's exactly what I meant it to be. So they send a team to go down, but then a lockdown occurs. All the lights are off, and now stuff is really getting heavy. So actually, let's skip ahead here and keep with the Maeve and them walking through the halls. So all the alarm.
Real quick though, if I'm gonna say from a security standpoint, I was kind of impressed that they sent someone other than just a lone like Elsie or Stubbs to investigate this time. Yes,
we have like a full armed guard, but even still, like you would think that they would have wave after wave of security member, not like 2 teams of 4, you know?
Yeah, everything is video game like enough in the show that it's kind of weird that there weren't just numerous waves, and that they didn't have like kill switch on all the different doors and stuff. You know?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Or like some like mini EMP grenades that go and then like shut down all the wiring, you know?
Yeah, Jesus.
Okay, anyway, not a big deal. This didn't take me out of it, so I'm not going to get into it now. But yeah, so they're kind of going through Armistice and what's-his-face, Hector, end up kind of blending into a group of, like, of the stiffs that are just standing there. And she walks up behind one of the armed guys and just neckties the shit out of him. Takes his gun. Hector ends up with it. They end up having another hilarious, like literally laugh out loud moment where he shoots someone and she finally gets a gun. She shoots somebody and she literally like just like laughs. Like it's just like pure joy for her discovering this upgrade weaponry.
Yeah, to think about them being like, 200 years past in guns, like 6
Yeah.
shooters that I mean, and they seem to be pretty reliable on the show, you know, but like back then everything just jammed every other bullet. So to go from that to like I pulled the trigger and 12 bullets flew out.
Yeah. This was like there was like I can't remember exactly the gun in GoldenEye. It was like the RPC 90 or something like that.
Yeah, we talked about it early on. I actually looked it up, but I can't remember. This is one of the exact guns that's used in that game that was also just insanely fast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the RPC 90. Let me just type that in and see if that brings up something. RCP 90. Okay, so I just had the P and the C mixed up, but yeah, RCP 90.
There we go.
Nailed it.
Which isn't a real gun. The real gun is called something else, but all the names in GoldenEye, for whatever reason, they just like changed them slightly because I think they were worried about parents being mad about real weapons being used or some bullshit.
Yeah, true.
Anyway.
But let's stick with this one. Okay, so
Yeah.
so Maeve and then they're walking through the bowels of Delos, and that's when we get Samurai World, which or I mean maybe it's Shogun World, I don't know, but it's something like that, and it's really cool. And here, you take over because I want you to go through my notes.
So the fact that there was a Samurai World was just so fucking sweet to me, and the fact
It
that
is
there's
so awesome.
yeah, and you know there's the sign that says SW, so you're not 100% sure, but Maeve is just like, what the hell is going on? And then Felix is like, it's complicated, dog.
I hate when you have to read my notes. It's so uncomfortable.
But it is just really fucking sweet that like that revelation, because we've talked numerous times, like we did a primer episode where we reviewed the film, and there's these three worlds: Rome world, medieval world, and Westworld. And we figured they'd go down that road at some point.
Yeah, they end up having a Future World TV show too for it.
Yeah, so for them to do that now, like I am very, very excited. And I read somewhere on Twitter, someone involved in the show said if the first season of Westworld is about control, the second season is about chaos.
Chaos. Yep, I
Which,
saw that. That was a cool line.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the movie called Antichrist?
No.
It's a really like weird, over-the-top art house film about these two parents that basically go off into the woods to mourn and rekindle their relationship after their child dies, but during like this weird fever dream, and my voice is real gravelly right now.
Oh my God, what is happening?
It.
This is super dramatic. Okay,
Yeah,
keep going.
you know, they're just distraught and everything's terrible, and they see a fox in a grassy glen, and
What does the fox say?
The fox turns around and says, "Chaos reigns."
Really?
Yeah, the fox just says chaos reigns in the most demonic voice in this weird fever dream. So every time I see the term chaos, especially in this context, I think of chaos reigns. But there's also that funny song you're referencing, which is a lot, less heavy.
Man, how did your voice not crack through that whole thing? I mean, it just seriously sounded like you were about to just go full-on massacre 13-year-old prepubescent Mothman, and somehow you managed to ride that wave out.
I think it's because like my voice cracks when it's dry, and that was the opposite. Like it just needed to be cleared of this coffee I decided to have after you made it sound like a good idea.
Yeah, true. Okay, so anyway, Armistice gets her arm stuck in the door at one point, and it was after, sadly enough, she's like, the gods are pussies, and then she gets like fucking pinned down, and Hector's like, die well, little buddy. And I don't know why he's a fucking vampire, a Mexican vampire all of a sudden. But
I don't either.
So Maeve gets into the elevator downstairs with Felix, but Hector can't get in. Kind of didn't quite understand why she did this, but I guess she really wanted to go it alone. And he's fine with it. He's like, whatever. And so he goes to fight the last little goons here. And that's pretty much it for this scene. Now we kind of skipped ahead of the Teddy and Dolores thing.
I will answer why she did that.
Okay, let's hear it.
She was programmed to.
Oh, yeah, that's basically it.
Right? Like she's programmed to have this other mission that kind of is a, loose thread for next season. Because, yeah, otherwise, the only thing I could think is that just the two people they're looking for, like it's harder to find just one person instead of the group. But otherwise, it didn't make a logical amount of sense. I think it's just whoever's pulling the strings.
So based on what's happened here, I mean, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but it's pretty clear that she is actually not leading the hosts of Undead. In fact, if anything, it's kind of like she's distracting the security team while all of those hosts from cold storage end up making off on their own, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I thought she was going to go release all those people, but it just is about her getting out on her own.
Yeah, so I really think that that's why Ford was having her do this, was just to distract security and lead them on this goose chase while the rest of the cold storage just made off into Westworld. And I guess the only open thread here from the whole cold storage area thing is we don't know what the hell happens with Peter Abernathy.
Yeah, that's true. But
because he most likely would not have gone with them. His programming would have been separate because of what he's been doing with Lee Sizemore and Charlotte Hale.
Yeah, I wonder if he's just like randomly with them trying to blend in, but like has his own agenda. But that also might just be a completely separate thing we see. Like, you know, episode 1 of Westworld season 2, Abernathy on his own, like Fievel Goes West.
Yeah, I was expecting to see him on the train that Maeve ends up getting on, like in the background maybe or something like that.
Yeah, that
like,
would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, but anyway, so that is definitely a thread that has yet to be wrapped up.
Yeah, so tying some threads together, right? The fact that Maeve is being controlled, we now see Teddy and Dolores arrive on the beach. They look like they're going to do some like lubed up suck and fuck. Am I right? Your notes are so gross. Your notes are so gross.
Come on,
anyway,
dude. No, you say lube up and do some suck and fuck, which is super gross and adult. Mine is gross and childish because it says they lay down like they're about to make the whoopsies, but she dying.
Whoopies.
Whoopies. Yeah, but she dying.
But she dying. And whoopies, just so you guys know, that was grosser because that's a term for anal.
Ew, no, it's not. God damn it, Mothman. Okay, so she gives her whole speech here about people try to see the ugliness in this world. I choose to see the beauty. We're trapped, Teddy. Lived our whole life in this garden, but there's an order and a purpose to it. The purpose is to keep us in. That beautiful trap is inside us. It is us. And then she dead. He crying. Okay, now you have to do his voice.
His voice? Wait, what does he say?
Come on, dude. I just did Elsa. Now you've got to do Prince Hans.
We can find a way, Dolores. Someday a path to a new world, and maybe it's just the beginning after all.
The camera pulls... Is that it? Okay.
Yeah, you don't need to read the narrator part 2.
Stage right. The camera pulls back, and the board members have been watching the whole thing.
That was actually a cool part. Like, I did not see that coming when the camera's pulling back and you start seeing legs and chairs and audience.
That... to me, did a lot because I was already thinking with like Maeve being controlled, that was revealed. We already kind of thought like, you know, the theory that Ford really is controlling every aspect, right? Like the show we're watching basically is just a camera watching what Ford's making. And then for this to happen and be kind of meta, I was like, that's kind of brilliant.
Oh, it was great and totally unexpected. So
yes,
that was amazing. And it's almost like a Truman Show type thing, you know, where like they can make night into day really quick. Like all of a sudden there's a ship out in this and it just blasts these beams onto the beach to light it up. And Ford comes on, gives a little bit of speech. But the most important part is that he gives the name of his new narrative.
What is it?
Are you not looking? You don't have it. Okay, I got you, buddy. I got you bailed out. Your old life vest is here. It's called Journey into the Night. No, fuck. Journey into Night.
Oh, man. I love making you read your own notes. Not so easy, is it?
No, it's not. But there were no baby talk parts right there.
Anyway, so you do see Hale and Sizemore in the back. But that's kind of it at the moment, right?
That's it, yeah. So, well, we get just a couple of different things right here, like just like shots kind of the town. We see all the familiar faces. Man in Black's there. He's in a suit now or a tuxedo. Tuddy,
with his fish arm flinging around.
Yeah, Teddy's there. We have the guy I know the actor's name, Stephen Ogg. I don't know what he is on here. He's Trevor from Grand Theft Auto. Just all the different people, and like it's just parlor games essentially for everybody there.
Yeah, it's like doing something at like a Disney hotel and the characters just come out basically.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And there's even there's a scene where Teddy shoots the glass off of that guy that plays Trevor from Grand Theft's head, and then a guest tries and just shoots him.
Yeah,
which is pretty funny.
Right in the arm, and he just like winces in pain, and everybody's like, "Yeah,
yeah, have a good time." Yeah.
Okay, so then we get Dolores being cleaned up by Ford, and he points over to. I'll let you read this.
I gotta find out where we are. Oh, he gestures to Michelangelo, the painting where God created Foxman. No, so this was kind of brilliant too. I mean, a little far fetched, right? This is painted on the Sistine Chapel, but kind of talking about the difference between philosophies that he and Arnold had. He says, like, I never really quite looked at it the right way till many years later. It's the outline of the human brain. We are God. Something like that. Which, if you look at it, like the cloak behind God, the red, it is basically the shape of a human brain. So it's not the craziest thing in the world. And it does play nicely into this whole, like, Ford being God, creating life. And now that we've seen Arnold basically say, you're no different than I am. You're alive. That's why I want to stop this part, because we're basically going to have people murdering and raping you for fun.
Yeah. But this whole scene just in general was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we get moments here that we've already kind of talked about, like with Arnold. This is the scene where we see him get killed, and he actually says, "These violent delights have violent ends," is his last line before he gets killed. Yes. And but Ford says, at the time, I did not believe what Arnold had said. I was sure that he was wrong at the time. But somebody, Oppenheimer, once said, any man whose mistakes take 10 years to correct is quite a man. Well, mine have taken 35. I must be a really, really, really great man.
Oppenheimer is one of the fathers of the atomic bomb.
Come on, man. Everybody knows that. Move on. Come on, mind freak.
I think a lot of people just think he's a composer.
Oh, yeah. It does sound like a composer's
name, right? Like that's Oppenheimer's Concerto 2, entitled Nagasaki.
Yeah. Entitled The Manhattan Project in B flat.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was kind of, that was just a brilliant line.
Yes, it was very good. And he gives a little bit more here when he's talking about the painting, about like the message from the painting is that the divine gift does not come from a higher power, but from our own minds, which is perfect because that's what happens with Dolores. Like the center of the maze is her voice. So that's what he's playing into with that. And he says something to the effect of like, do you know who you need to become if you ever want to leave this place? And that's the point where he kind of excuses himself.
Yeah, but through this, there's this whole plot throughout, which is the center of the maze is true consciousness and the fact that you're actually hearing your own voice and talking to yourself, right? Like when we watch Westworld, we have entire conversations with ourselves, and then, kind of summarize that down to an hour or so when we talk, right? And that's just a uniquely human thing. Like as far as people can tell and study brainwaves, like other species just don't do anything like that. It's just basic reactions to things. And so that's kind of the true, I think there was another episode where they said like pass the Turing test in a year. So this is that next level. And so I love the fact that we eventually see, and we've seen this in a past episode where Dolores is talking to herself at the card table and reading her tarot. She's talking to herself again, but at first it's Arnold's voice, and then she realizes who she's really talking to, like, is her actual self-actualization.
That's a good callback. I didn't remember that.
Yeah, and that's when she starts to pull out we think of it as a vision, which it is, but, she's been having flashes where she's actually hearing herself the whole time, but it's easier for her to hear it as Arnold because that makes sense, even though that too is weird. And so then for it to kind of finally come together, like that's the realization. That's the, what does he say later? Like finally by her choice.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that was just all that stuff coalescing was just. The whole episode kind of was giving me chills,
Yes. Oh, for sure. Okay, so we get Maeve riding in the elevator with Felix. She asks him how she looks, and he says, "You look perfect." And he gives her the location of her daughter, and I just love the line that she says here of, "Felix, you really do make a terrible human being." And I mean that as a compliment. That was actually like a sweet little scene, because in a lot of ways he's like a dopey version of Arnold. Like he is absolutely a host sympathizer, and but he doesn't have the same level of talent as Arnold doesn't. In fact, he looks very surprised by everything that's happening. But it's very clear that his motives are that he believes that they are real, that they are true beings, and that they deserve a shot at freedom or awakening their consciousness or whatever that last step is.
How did he get the location and why? Like, did she ask him to get that?
I don't know if he just got that on his own. I'm not certain. I mean, maybe he's a host and that was placed into him. No, because she would have recognized if he was a host.
Yeah, that was like, well, unless of course she's being programmed to not see him, like in that way. But that was out the window until this episode when she's being controlled. But that was the only thing out of left field for me this episode. When I say that, I mean like I didn't put two and two together and figure it out.
Yeah, but it doesn't even necessarily matter, But she ends up hopping off the elevator and gets on the train. She's sitting across from a mother and daughter. At some point, she decides that, and I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but
sure.
she basically decides to hop off the train. Now, I'm pretty sure the mother and daughter there kind of snapped her back into her loop a little bit. Like she essentially decides, okay, I'm going to follow those coordinates that Felix gave me, and I'm going to find my daughter. That's the way that I took it. Now, that was maybe implied a little bit, but it definitely was not outwardly stated.
No, I think that was implied. She's looking at the daughter. I do feel like the Felix piece where he just has this stuff randomly, I think he's, once again, that bigger theory that everyone is kind of being manipulated and played in some way. I think he was basically instructed to give those to her because that's her true mission. And then she, all right, I'm getting out of this train, gonna go take care of this stuff. And as someone on Reddit posted, there's also a SW sign. Like it's basically like the going between the different parks at Disney and the monorail. Like there's a sign for one of the worlds up there. But then like just all the power shuts down, and that's when shit's going down. And then that's kind of juxtaposed with what we're seeing at the gala.
Yes. Now, before we get there, the last thing is Bernard and Ford in the church. They've just come up out of the confessional elevator. And so Bernard is basically telling Ford, like, Arnold's still trying to free all of them. You think that I believe that you put the reveries in? He slipped that into the updates, didn't he? He's still fighting you. And that's actually pretty good, Bernard, I feel like.
Yeah, that wasn't bad.
Yeah, but Ford's like, no, that's not correct at all. I can't ever let you get anything. I always have to one-up you because I'm a self-righteous prick. No, but essentially here, there are a couple of good lines that really kind of like cues up into what he is. It only makes sense on a second viewing, really, when he's saying like, the first time he didn't know how to save you. Arnold did not know how to save you, and I stopped him. And do you know why I gave you the backstory? Because it was the key insight that led to the hosts having their awakening, and that's when I began to realize I was wrong, because now I do know how to save you. You needed time to understand your enemy. Obviously, he's talking about human beings, to become stronger than them. And, I'm sorry, but you're going to need to suffer a little bit more to escape this place. And now it's time to say goodbye, old friend. And they shake hands. Now, there was a lot on Reddit about this handshake, because there was a moment in an earlier episode where Ford had said something to the effect of being able to tell a host from a human by a handshake. And this handshake, not only does it look a little odd and uncomfortable, but also the camera lingers on it for an unusual amount of time.
Very much so.
So the possibility here would be that perhaps he is this, at the very least, this version right here in this scene, and maybe the one that gets killed later is a host.
Yeah, which
and maybe what was being synthesized in that Teresa episode where we've said, oh no, that's Teresa being synthesized. Oh no, maybe it was Elsie. Yeah,
it's him.
Maybe it's just or not. Maybe that happened off camera.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think this scene's so interesting though because, as you were saying, Arnold was obviously a host sympathizer, just like Felix is, and Ford has not been. He's been the one that wants to open the park and make money and just kind of has the fun of creation and thinks of himself as a god, gets mad when people clothe these robots when he's working on them. So for him to basically say, like, Arnold was right all along, and who knows when he came to this realization, but that's kind of what the whole final narrative's been about. Arnold was right. Humans are the enemy. You are the next evolution of man. How do I make this a reality and get all of you out of the park?
Yeah, basically. And so the only last scene that happens here before we get into the gala, as you said, is Arnold and Dolores chatting again. And essentially, at this point, he starts to turn into Ford's voice, which then turns into Dolores's voice. And she sees herself. And she realizes this is what it was meant to be. This is the center of the maze, like my true consciousness awakening and speaking to me directly without all the barriers placed in there by Ford and Arnold. Like, this is just at the center of me now is me. Like, I am my own, like, there's no Jiminy Cricket inside of me. It's just Dolores straight through.
Yeah. And her realizing this, which, Arnold or Bernard said she's found this before when they're talking earlier. So she's done this once more, but that ended in everyone dying, and including Arnold. And I think it just almost. But even
then, she didn't quite get to this point in the last one because she didn't actually kill Arnold in terms of, like, it wasn't her own free will that did it, and she didn't recognize whose voice it was. Remember, like when she was talking to him in the cemetery. Because he's like, do you understand now? And she's like, I'm sorry, I don't quite get it.
Yeah, that's true. So this is like the next level of it where it truly comes to, she sees her clothes and her guns and is like, I know what I have to do now.
Yes. Okay. So back out at the board party.
Yes. And at some point, and I think we said it, but eventually, his way to make the park shut down and kill everyone was to merge Wyatt, which we've been hearing about the whole time, which was like their next villain. So he basically combined their personalities, which is what had her go in the killing frenzy, not quite of her free will, especially at the end there. So now we're at the gala. Ford is just giving this fantastic toast that
Great
is just
toast. And
incredibly ominous.
The song that's playing is Exit Music for a Film by Radiohead, which is a tremendous song. I love that all the Radiohead songs that they use are all what I imagine must be the popular ones because they're all the ones that I know. And
Sure.
And I just love this song. And it actually lyrically was inspired by Romeo and Juliet, which is pretty cool considering that the source material for so many of these different lines are Shakespeare, including violent delights have violent ends. So I thought that was a pretty cool, and honestly, just the drama of the song, because the song itself starts off really low key and starts to swell big time until it's just all horns and like ambient, like loud sounds and like the, Tom York, lead singer, pouring his heart out. So anyway, and we're getting lots of different little montage shots here of just other things happening.
Is this motion picture soundtrack or exit music for a film?
It's exit music for a film. I wrote down motion picture soundtrack
both,
the first time.
I can't you know what I mean? Like I've heard Radiohead, but there's only a handful of songs. So I'm like, oh, I know the exact name of that one. Otherwise I just vaguely recognize them.
Yeah, I'm still a little bummed. I was really hoping at some point that we get to hear Everything in Its Right Place, which is not only my favorite Radiohead song, but one of my top 5 probably favorite songs of all time. Oh my. Yeah, I love that song. But anyway, so we get a couple of things here. So we get Lee Sizemore going into cold storage, finding it empty. That's when we see Maeve comes out of there. We got the MIB on the corner, or on the, the outside of the town a little bit.
Where he took a whiskey bottle because he was just depressed.
Yeah, and he starts to, like, before even the scene gets to its climax, he starts to notice that something strange is happening out on, like, the edge of the woods.
Yeah. He hears, like, twigs cracking. He's like, what the hell's out there, right? I mean, this is a fake environment, right? Like, there shouldn't be real beasts out there in the woods.
Yes, and Ford's giving his whole speech we've heard before about how he loves a good story, and he's saying, I, for the longest time, thought that, that nobody here could change, something like that, and but I found someone that could change, and the story began with her, and the story, it's not about us, it's about them. It's about the people they will decide to become. It will have surprises and violence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he starts earlier with, like, lies that told a deeper truth, kind of similar to stuff he's already said, but what's very different is these last lines, like you were saying, about it being about them, who they will become, what they will want to do with their lives, at which point you're just like, oh shit, and, like, Dolores starts making her way out, all the hosts are already watching, she's walking up behind, and at first I thought she was just gonna come up there and start killing people, but then I was like, oh, she's gonna off forward. And then I'm like, hopefully she doesn't just off forward. She starts shooting everyone else. And sure enough, she does.
Yep, it's definitely old Ford's Theater Massacre over there. And she blows his brains out, which is a fucking amazing shot and scene and reveal. And everybody's screaming. At this point, we flip to Man in Black real quick. He gets shot in the arm. Blood sprays. He's just, like, eyes open totally wide and just smiling, like, this is it. New Game Plus, bitches. Like, super excited. And Dolores straight up kills board members. Like, at first you're wondering if she's just shooting into the crowd, but then you can clearly see in the background a bullet enter into the back of one. Yeah. So, that's basically where it ends until you get to, like, the old Marvel Universe mid-credits scene.
They've never done that in other episodes, right?
No, they have not. Nope, absolutely, you have not missed them. This is the first one.
So Armistice just cuts her arm off with her knife and then continues to fight people. So Hector, you kind of assume, I guess, is down because he was left at the elevator with tons of men swarming him, whereas she scares the shit out of, like, the one dude pointed at her who starts to take off. So we'll see where that plays out. But, as far as teasers go, that seemed like a pretty insignificant one with all the fucking shit they dropped this episode, right?
Yeah, that was just a fun little scene. I think like they ended it on, like, a super heavy drama. I think that they wanted to give you, like, a little chuckle coming out of it, and it worked for me. She was goddamn brilliant in this episode, by the way. Like, just like the way that she reacted as she's becoming aware, like, just very, very heroine badass.
Absolutely. So that makes it for the episode. We made it through all 10 episodes. This one's going long, but at the same time, it was like an hour and a half episode. I think really the only unanswered, like, the big unanswered questions, Elsie and Stubbs.
Yes.
Like, what's going to happen with them?
Logan.
Logan, which, what it happens
that
there.
Probably doesn't impact much in the present tense of what's happening at Westworld, but I mean, I'm certainly curious. I know he was your favorite character all season.
Absolutely.
And so Peter Abernathy too. We don't know what's going on. Okay, you know what? Next week, we are putting out a season review of Westworld. We're going to go into all sorts of different little Easter eggs, some things with their website that have come out that are interesting, that actually answer some questions a little bit that were left unanswered by the episodes. We're going to have some like season awards, just various different things for anybody who enjoyed Westworld. Just one last little hurrah to be able to look back at the scope of the season and appreciate it for what a wonderful story it was. Like, the beautiful thing is even as a self-contained story in this season, we had a beginning, middle, and an end. And honest to God, if it hadn't been picked up for a second season, of course, I would be extremely bummed. But yeah, it would have been wonderful. And honestly, if it goes off the rails in future seasons, we'll probably look back and think, like, they should have just made this a mini series. But I don't foresee it. I really don't. Like, it seems like it's in good hands.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the next season, but I was thinking the same thing. Like, this season, was so perfect, and outside of these handful of loose threads, like it could not be picked up, and it's still just a great piece of mind-bending, like thought-provoking sci-fi that was just an absolute blast to cover. I will say too, if you have friends that are into it, which many of us do, and they weren't all for listening to our podcast discussing each episode, they'll probably still enjoy our recap, because it'll be one just kind of diving into the whole season, kind of going through some of the theories and stuff. So it's a good time to jump on for people that have been watching as well.
And also because we're going to have different segments. So instead of just blocks of conversation, which I mean is the main thing people tune into podcasts for, though, we are going to kind of break it up with some different little pieces that we're going to record throughout the week. So anyway, look for that. We talked about all the other stuff. It's a long podcast, so let's just go ahead and put a bow on it. If you've enjoyed what we've done here with Westworld, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Stitcher. It makes a really big difference in terms of the indexing, and it helps. And like Mothman said, recommend it to a friend. It's just we really appreciate it. We definitely don't make money doing this, even with the advertising we've had. It's not like we're in the green by any means, or the black. I don't know. That's how little we know about finances.
Especially the 108 episodes or something we've done in 5 months.
Yes.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, that is nuts. But okay, anyway, Mothman, would you like to tie a bow on this bitch?
I would. One last thing, check out our website, and we have a gift guide on there just for some holiday shopping. You buy stuff through Amazon, we get a kickback, a way to help us make a tiny bit of money to keep doing this. But otherwise, we will see you next week for the recap, little buddies.